This is Richard Lynch. I'm here at the office of Youth Work Ireland in Dublin, and we're here today to talk about a possible constitutional amendment to children's rights.
What is Voices of Youth?
It's a group of young people from all across Ireland that come together to work on issues that are relevant to young people and giving young people a voice in the media, because at the moment young people are portrayed very badly in the media, and a lot of the times they talk about young people but they never actually ask young people what they think of the things they're speaking about.
Now tell me, Alice, why today? What are we doing here today?
So we're coming together today to discuss the amendment to the Children's Rights Convention. About a year ago we were talking about the amendment and we realised we didn't really know anything about it, and we did a bit of Googling and we tried to find out about it, but all we could find was long convoluted documents intended for lawyers and businessmen and not for the everyday person. And we thought that if there was going to be voting on the rights of children out of everyone, surely young people, children should have a say in it, or even the parents of young people that aren't really being informed properly. So we wanted young people to know what their rights were and to know how their rights were going to be affected by this amendment. So we set up today as a way of hopefully informing young people and gathering views of young people so that we can pass them on to someone that can do something about it.
What is your real goal here today?
We intend to put together information leaflets and videos for young people around the country, and also bring the information to the government. And I suppose on a wider scale, we just want for the people that it's going to affect to be as informed as possible about the amendment, so that they can make an informed decision and the outcome will be what's most beneficial to the young people of Ireland.
So to get to this point today, what did you have to do to make all this happen? What were the steps? Where did you get your funding for this day?
Well, we started with the blog just to inform people about it, and it gathered a bit of interest. Myself and Michael McLaughlin of Youth Work Ireland attended a conference for Stand Up for Children. They were interested to see that we were intrigued by the amendment, and they provided our funding.
I'm here with Michael McLaughlin, the Director of Central Services of Youth Work Ireland. Michael, can you tell me, what is Youth Work Ireland and what do you do?
Basically, Youth Work Ireland is a coordination body for 22 local voluntary youth services, community-based youth services around the country, generally regionally or county-based. So we represent them, we bring them all together, we ensure they provide a quality service, we lobby for them, we try and raise funds for them, and generally do everything we can to make sure they run a very good frontline service for young people in the country. That's
amazing. And how do you work with Voices of Youth?
Well, Voices of Youth came up because we tend to see that through doing our normal day-to-day work in terms of services, we realise their issues are coming up and that young people should have a direct voice in them. So rather than us saying what they should do or what they should think or what they want, we let them do it for themselves. Now, obviously, we have to facilitate that to a degree and support them, but generally speaking, they should speak for themselves. They should be out front. That's where the event today came from. It was their idea. They thought it was a good idea to do this. Now, obviously, we do a lot of the organisation and putting the thing together, but they will lead it on the day. They will lead the discussion, and they will kind of talk amongst themselves, amongst their peers, and we will step back and let them do that. And that's kind of the whole participative way the organisation should work.
I'm here with Lara Kelly from Stand Up for Children. Lara, can you tell me, what is your organisation and what are you doing here today?
Yeah, we're a new organisation which was set up to promote children's rights in Ireland. I'm here today to work with Youth Work Ireland on this very important issue. We've long been promised a referendum on children's rights. Today is an information session for young people. They're the ones who are going to be most profoundly affected by any changes in the Constitution. So for me, it's very important to hear their voices.
Maria, can you tell me, when were you set up and what are you?
The Children's Rights Alliance was set up in 1995. We came together to promote children's rights in Ireland after Ireland ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So our job is to make the convention real in Ireland, to have it implemented in Ireland.
And why are you here today?
The Alliance is a coalition of over 90 organisations, and Youth Work Ireland is one of our member organisations, and they invited us to come to be part of today's meeting. The Alliance has done a lot of work over the last number of years to promote the holding of a children's rights referendum. So we've done a lot of work on the amendment, so we're delighted to be part of today and to support Youth Work Ireland in this initiative.
Can you tell me, what are you hoping to achieve out of today?
Well, I think it's really important that children are being asked their views on the amendment. So I suppose that's a critical right that children have, a fundamental right to have their voice heard and to express their opinions on the issue. So the first thing is we're listening, and I suppose just having the day is a huge achievement, and we congratulate Youth Work Ireland for taking the initiative. So I'm listening. I'm also here to be helpful, so I'm here to try and answer questions. The young people have come up with some good questions so far. It's not the easiest area to answer black and white yes or no questions on, so sometimes it's just really talking it through and exploring it.
Why now?
Why now is because we're looking to actually make a change to the Constitution. So the Constitution has been in place since 1937, and the proposal at the moment is to make a change to strengthen children's rights in the Constitution. When we wrote the Constitution back in the 30s, we saw children to be part of the family, and we defined the family to be the married family. So I suppose what we need to do now is bring the Constitution into our times and to reflect the fact that families have changed, and that children, we now understand that children have individual rights on their own, and we want to ensure that they're reflected in the Constitution.
John, what are we doing here today?
Basically, you know, it's a big drive for this referendum on children, and I suppose a big concern with our young people who we have involved in the organisation was the young people don't know anything about it, don't know what's going on, why we're doing it, and don't know a great deal about the Constitution. So it's all about letting young people know what's going on with the referendum, getting their views on exactly, you know, the way things are at the minute, and whether it is acceptable or not. So it's going to be great. We're going to have some feedback back afterwards, which we're going to present to the government and hopefully move on from there.
Why don't they know?
Again, it's just poor acknowledgement from the government and from adults in general in society, you know, of the importance of young people and the importance of young people in their own lives. And I suppose this referendum in particular, and everything we do in the country, has got to do with young people. But again, it's just not acknowledged.
Why are you here today?
I'm here today to hear the views of the young people who've been talking today about the need for strengthening children's rights in the Constitution. And I want to hear their voices and see where they set the priorities.
Yeah, why do you think it's important they have a voice to begin with?
Well, one of the things we want to do in the Constitution is to say that children have a voice and that we should listen to children. So surely I should practice what I preach and come and actually listen to children's viewpoints, because very often, because they're looking at things differently, so in a school, for example, can they complain about a teacher without consequences? You know, we talk employment law about whistleblowers legislation, but yet we don't allow pupils really to have that voice. Can they change and improve their situations in life about their health, their education? And these are the type of issues I think we should be having for children, and it should be in the Constitution. It's the highest law of the land.
The Constitution, we were talking earlier on, it's a framework, so it's an overarching framework, and you put that down in the country and you go, right, they're the laws of the country and we the people of the country decide this, and you can't change the laws of our country unless we want to change them. So you can put all the charters of human rights on top all you want, you can put all the bills, all the EU legislation, but if it interferes with something that's written in the Constitution, which is the kind of the bottom line, then it's not applicable in Irish law. So Susan is 17 and in school. She's concerned that a teacher is bullying two boys who have newly arrived in the school. She talks about this with her parents, but they tell her to concentrate on her studies and not really to be sticking her head up or making any trouble. The teacher continues to bully the two boys in front of all the other students. Susan speaks with the headmaster and asks to register a complaint about the teacher's behaviour. Because of the way the Constitution is now, at the moment, Susan has no right to register an individual complaint with her school. Only her parents or guardians can do so. So she has to get the parents to do it. She doesn't have the right to make an individual complaint. Unless Susan can persuade her parents to get involved, it's left to the headmaster's discretion whether or not he does anything about it and whether or not there's actually a formal record of the complaint that Susan made. How do you feel about it? If that was you in your situation, how would you feel about it?
You'd feel kind of bad because maybe you're friends with them or something and they're getting bullied and there's nothing you can do about it. Even though you brought it to someone's attention, there's still nothing you can do about it because they're not going to take it further. But could you not go to the Board of Management or something, the school, the Board of Education or something?
That's what we're saying. At this particular moment in time, you do not have the right to register a formal complaint. And the headmaster can go, yes, I'm going to investigate this further. I'm not happy about the situation that there's a teacher bullying a student, or you can just go, sure, go away, you're only 17, like, what's your opinion matter? Like?
But what about the people itself that are getting bullied, the two boys? Could they not bring it up because they're the ones getting bullied?
At the moment in time, no, they don't have the right to. They can say it, they can make it verbal, but nothing will be done about it, nothing will be written down on paper. The parent is the person who has to actually go and say, this is happening. So it should be changed, we've agreed. Why should it be changed?
The UN Convention thing, you know, the rights of the child, the UN Convention that they did, everyone's allowed to speak up for something that is to do with them. So that might be being able to speak out at something like this, but at the same time, that would be something like if you're being bullied, that you should be able to speak up about it. You know, so it's like that was published to show the basic human rights. So something like that is a basic human right.
As well as the right to feel safe. You don't feel safe if you don't have the means to be able to, defend yourself by lodging a formal complaint.
Hands up who doesn't think it's fair. Everyone. Kelly is 11 and lives with her Aunt Una and Uncle Killian, who also have 2 children of their own and an adopted son. Kelly came to live with them when her own parents split up. Although she has lived with Una and Killian for 6 years, it is almost impossible for them to adopt her because her parents are still married. Because Kelly's biological parents remain married, even though they have separated and have abandoned all contact with their daughter Kelly, the Constitution stops Kelly from being formally adopted. This can be very difficult for Kelly. Because they remain fostered, it means that these children can feel different and not fully part of the family. They cannot take their foster family's surname, and the smallest of details must be verified by a social worker. For example, Una and Killian must get the consent of a social worker if they want to take Kelly on an overnight school trip. Same questions as last time. Do you think it's fair?
At the end of the day, like, they're like her parents. Her parents have like abandoned all contact with her. So like, it's kind of saying that why can't she have other parents if her parents don't want her? So like, they should be able to adopt her if it's what they want, like, because at the end of the day, if her parents don't want nothing to do with her, then what's she going to do, like?
Because that's the situation. It's the parents have no contact with her whatsoever, no contact with each other, but technically, under the law, they're still married, therefore she doesn't have the right to be adopted.
Have the right to, have a say in this because it is her life, and if she doesn't want to go live with her parents and she wants to stay with her foster parents, she should have, she should be allowed to choose whether she wants to stay or not, because you can't just be dragging her around.
What isn't fair about that situation?
It's all well and good, saying that this is unfair, but you got to think of the alternative. I mean, the alternative is we make it legal for kids to be adopted even though their parents are still together. So I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that kind of a system.
Anyone else want to come back at that? Anyone else got any ideas?
There really are her family. She's been with them for 6 years of her life, and she was only by her mother and father for 5 years. So she's brought up with her aunt and uncle since she was 5. So they're kind of more her family than anyone else, because they've been looking after her. They raised her up. They most likely put her in school. So they should have a right. Could they not go to the social worker or anything, the foster parent?
They don't have that right. They're her foster parents at the end of the day. They're not her adopted parents. They don't have the legal right. Why do you think it should be changed? You're kind of the opinion you're not sure. You think that there is a chance that by, say, closing this loophole, you open up other loopholes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a perfect system, but it's the best one we've got.
So just with show of hands if you think it's not fair. Cocktail. No abstentions. Ryan is 15 years old and he lives with his parents. Lately, Ryan has been bothered by a problem. He doesn't want to talk to his parents about the problem just yet, but would really like to talk to a counsellor on a regular basis. Ryan is thinking about asking Karen for help and advice. Karen is a counsellor who works at Ryan's local youth cafe. Currently, Karen cannot get involved in providing regular counselling to Ryan without the consent of at least one of his parents. Ryan does not want to let his parents know about his problem just yet, so Karen can't help him properly.
You can go to your school counsellor and ask them not to say anything, and if it's not a big enough deal, like suicidal or anything, then they don't have to tell your parents, because like, Joe, it's...
If it's ongoing counselling about a specific thing, you do have to get permission. You can kind of drop in and out to the school counsellor about kind of small stuff, but this is like a concern. It's something that he's quite worried about. So it may need referring on, or it may need kind of ongoing help. Do we think we should change something, tweak it to allow the counsellor have that ability, or allow the young person to access services without having to disclose all the information? Or do we leave it the way it is? We just get a hands up. Who thinks we should change this current situation?
Okay. Carolina, where did you come from today?
From Cork.
And what brought you here?
Well, I'm representing the guides. I was asked if I wanted to go to this to discuss youth rights and stuff, and I'm really interested in the rights of just human rights in general, but I thought this would be interesting.
Why are you particularly interested in mental health issues?
Well, as well as guides, I'm involved in the Cork City Corlin and Oak, which is the youth council for the city, and we did a project a year or two ago about mental health services for young people, and we found that a lot of young people have problems with depression and stress and so on.
And they don't know about their rights to mental health, do they?
They don't know about their rights, and they also can't access a lot of services because of things like the scenario I'm talking about, the fact that they need parental consent and stuff, that there are actually services for young people out there. It's just that because of they don't have enough information about them, and they don't have enough information about their rights.
Lee, I want to talk to you about the scenario. A person needs the consent of a parent to seek counselling from a counsellor. What do you think of that?
Well, he shouldn't, because the issue could be around his parents as well, and he might want to talk to his parents about it. So he should be just allowed to get counselling.
A child will always have issues. Growing up throughout the years, there will be things like that will happen, and I totally disagree with having to have consent of your parents.
James is 12 years old and lives with his mother Karen, who has custody following her divorce 3 years ago. James's father, David, takes custody of James every third weekend. David lives over an hour away from Karen, and James is upset that he is missing weekends with his friends from school. Karen and David are both happy with the current arrangements, as they are predictable, and neither wants to change the frequency of James's stay with his dad. James wants to see his dad, but wants to have more of a say in when. Some months he'd like to skip a stay with his dad to join in with his friends. The family court makes the decision about custody, about which parent James lives with and when. As the constitution is now, the family court does not involve James in making their decision, or take into account what James wants. As a result, James has been upset the last few times he has been due to stay with his father. So do you think that adults should vote to change the current situation based on the facts that we have now? So should, in the referendum, adults say this needs to change? So just a show of hands. So you think we should? And feel free to not. Okay.
If there will be anything in the amendment about the difference between younger children and older children, like the fact that the rights of a 5-year-old will be different from the rights of a 17-year-old.
We withdraw from the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, where it talks about the evolving capacity of children. And not necessarily always to look at it at a chronological age. Equally, how the justice system, we would very clearly say, if you're under 18, you should be treated as a child though, and if you're over 18, then you're an adult. But what happens in that transition? We don't think you wake up on the 18th birthday and say, hey, I'm an adult now, I've got all these extra rights. It's actually a transition. So for example, children in care, they shouldn't just at the age of 18 that the HSE will say, you know, we don't have any more responsibility because they're no longer a child, they can go into the adult system. Maybe they need a few years to transition into adulthood, you know.
Children are going to have a say in whether to be adopted. Is there going to be an age limit on that? Because the opinion of an 11-year-old compared to a 16-year-old is going to be totally different. While their opinions may be different, we still should be consulting with them. And seeing their viewpoint. It's not the sole decision in deciding if they adopt it, but if the 11 or 16-year-old says, I do not wish to be adopted, for whatever reason, I think, even though the adults might say, well, this is their best, this is everything, we have to take that very seriously. What it will mean that children will have a right to be adopted,
which I think is extremely important, but obviously the child would have to be consulted about that. But currently you can have two siblings in a family, you're growing up, but one is fostered and one maybe is adopted or is a natural born child. So for me it will just ensure that they can be part of a family if they wish to be part of a family.
Why is there no amendment in the Constitution regarding children of asylum seekers and refugees that come into the country and they are not treated as minors, instead they are treated as adults, and they are kept in the hostels with adults and they are not given education or equal treatments that are supposed to be given to children?
They should be children first and asylum seekers second. We believe by strengthening children's rights in the Constitution and ensuring that the wording is right, so it doesn't just talk about citizen Irish children or in any way just limited. It should be any child living in Ireland, irregardless of their status, that they would be treated as children first and they would have rights. And then obviously the immigration and asylum laws are in place. The way we are treating children is not acceptable.
What's the next step for Voices of Youth?
Okay, after this we will hopefully, we're going to take, because there's going to be a graffiti artist today which will take illustrations of what's being done today, and we will take that along with the information we find and we will put together user-friendly information for both parents and young people, because a lot of parents don't know what's going on, because as Alice said, a lot of the information is just for lawyers and business people, who not for the everyday person. So we plan to do that, but the information will be given to government so that they can know that this is young people's opinions on it and this is what young people think about it, and these are questions young people have that you need to clarify if you're going to make these changes.
This is Richard Lynch on behalf of Youth Work Ireland and Voices of Youth. We've been here speaking about a possible constitutional amendment to children's rights. Stay tuned. See you soon.